Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I've got Drew Maddux with me. Drew, how you doing?
Brett, I'm doing great. It's an honor to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. You are in Nashville, Tennessee, right?
That is correct. I'm a native, which is one of the few these days with all the move-ins, from all over the country. But yeah, I'm generationally tied here. Our family's been here for many, many years. Never left the city. My wife's from here as well, and so yeah, this is home and always been home for us.
Well, you've seen some significant growth, man. It's an awesome city, and obviously you know that. You've been there your whole life, but we love going down there. I'm only about 4 hours from there. I'm from St. Louis, so we're pretty close.
Yeah, it is. It's really good because I still think it's at the intersection of what Nashville was and what it's becoming, and which is exciting in both senses, like the honoring of the past, but this innovation, this progression of all the newness. And so We've certainly been the benefactors of a lot of new restaurants and new opportunities and new ways to do life. And so we're very, very thankful for the visionary leadership of our city.
Absolutely. Well, you were a successful college basketball player there in Vanderbilt as well. So that's awesome. I'm sure we'll talk some about that. And you've been in the business world, the coaching world. You've been in the TV world doing some sports commentating. You've done all sorts of stuff. And you've also wrote a book called Elevated, which is a motivational book on being the best version of you. Before we get started, though, Drew, what I always like to do with people is kind of what's the backstory? What's made you the man you are today? You don't just wake up and do all the stuff you've done. So if you can share some of that, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Brett, for allowing me to do that. It really does begin with, I have incredible parents. I was a son first. I'm the middle of three. My parents were incredible. They were life-giving. They were supportive. They were encouraging. And they were great facilitators for us to dream big and help support us in the pursuing of what those dreams were. One of the things that I wanted to do when I was little, when I was 5 years old, my kindergarten teacher asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I drew myself in a Vanderbilt basketball uniform. And that picture set my mirror my entire life. And the reason why I was so specific and so intentional as it relates to playing basketball at Vanderbilt was my father and my grandfather both played basketball at Vanderbilt. And it was just other people told stories at bedtime of other legendary folk heroes. My dad told stories of these legendary Vanderbilt basketball players. And so it just was so real in our family that's just what I wanted to do. And so I worked like crazy my entire life in the pursuing of that dream. So it helped shape everything in terms of my disciplines, my behaviors in the classroom, the decisions I made, how I treated my body, and then just the diligence of what it means to chase after a dream with everything that you had. I was blessed to be able to do that. I grew up here in high school, had a great high school career, committed to Vanderbilt as a freshman in high school. And so knew that's what I wanted to do. So when Eddie Fogler offered that scholarship, I was like, yes, I know that's what I want to do. And so was blessed to be able to do that. Played here in Nashville my entire life. My whole family lives here. So it became a big family reunion every single night we played. It was just a great, great connector of a shared experience for our family and our friends. Met my wife my sophomore year at Vanderbilt. We got engaged my senior year. We just celebrated 25 years of marriage. And so she is my best friend. She is my inspiration. And she's my biggest cheerleader, biggest encouragement in my life. And so we have an incredible love story that I'm so thankful for the way she's impacted my life. So I'm a husband next. And then thirdly, I'm a dad. So I have 5 children. We have 3 daughters biologically. And in 2010, December 15th, which we're coming up on an anniversary of what that means, we adopted 2 little boys from Uganda. They're not little anymore. They're now big 16-year-old boys. And they completed our family. And so we have 5 children. So I was a son, I was a husband, and now, being able to be a father as well. And so really through those 3 lenses, that's the paradigm by which, life works for me and life flows. Yeah. And then everything else just kind of flows out of that. But really, those are the 3 aspects of my life that I'm the most focused on And I believe if I'm pursuing everything that I have within those three constructs, that the byproduct will be the opportunity to be excellent as a coach, to be excellent as a speaker, to be excellent as a broadcaster, to be excellent as a business person, an entrepreneur. All the other things will flow out of that and will be icing on the cake if I'm pursuing the three loves of my life the most,
Yeah.
of being a son, of being a husband, and being a father.
Love it. That's a great explanation, man. I think I appreciate you sharing that, Drew.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You're 5 years old. You're talking about dreams and aspirations, and you said, I want to be a Vandy basketball player, and it comes true. So I'm curious on what you think about now as you've gone through life and you've taught your kids and you also coaching kids and you're speaking. How important is it to dream and think big? And what I heard in that story was you didn't just write it down and put it in your top drawer of your desk. You put it on your mirror, right?
Yep.
So how important is that when we're giving some advice to people today listening to this?
Yeah, I think it's crucial. It really does begin there. It's what do you see? You will become what you see. And, without
Mm-hmm.
vision, there's nothing that's ever been created, invented, or accomplished without first the sight to see it. And so I believe it does start with, if you want to be excellent at anything that you want to accomplish or do or see fulfillment or even joy, you got to see it first. And I can give you so many examples of that, but certainly in my life, I'm a speaking, walking testimony of what that means to see it first. Really, then it moves into the second phase of it. So as you see it, as you visualize it, it really does move into the preparation. How are you preparing? Does your preparation align with the result that you hope for? Because so
Yeah.
many times, Brett, you'll when it gets to game time or you get into the arena, oh, okay, I'm going to flick on the switch, I'm going to turn it on in that moment, but the habits have not been consistent enough in a
Yep.
direct alignment with the result that you hope for. So as you see it, it moves into the planning and the preparation of it. So in order that you can then step in and do it, so it's
Yeah.
see it, plan for it, and then you got to go do it, and you got to deliver and when greatness is required. And then the last piece of that is you got to finish. You got to finish. And, so many times we'll step in and you'll start to execute or you'll start to do something, but you can't finish. You can't complete it. You can't, see it all the way through. And so it really does begin with the sight to see it first. Are you preparing and planning and practicing in your process in the fulfillment of that sight? Do you go and do you step into it and can you do it? And then lastly, do you complete it? Can you finish it all the way through? And I believe that's the stages of everything, but it does begin with what do you see first?
Yeah, it's so it's funny when I was 22, 23 years old starting in my business, I'm in the wealth management space. I had all my goals, framed like literally in a nice picture frame right next to the phone because what did I have to do as a young financial advisor? I had to pick up the phone 40, 50, 60, 100 times a day to
Yeah.
try to get clients, right? And I knew when people would tell me no or they would dodge my calls, all the stuff, when I could read what was important to me and why I was doing it, it made it easier, right? So my question there is now, we're both, I think you're close to my age. We're in our mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
And, you probably don't have the little picture frame on your mirror anymore playing basketball. So how does that go now as we're older? You've experienced success in your life. How do those quote unquote dreams or those goals play out in your life now?
Yeah, I think it starts with the end in mind. First of all, it's your legacy, your next assignment, your next thought, your next habit, your next word spoken should be in direct alignment with the legacy that you want to leave behind. And legacy to me is not just what I leave behind, but what do others do because of the investment I made in them. So it really does start with legacy. And so what I do every single year, Brett, is and I work with people all the time as we walk through this, but we walk through the framework of legacy and what does that mean? And then how do you start to really get intentional and practical around what legacy means in the different aspects of your life? So you
Yep.
start to break that down. Then, we're about 40 days away from when we're taping this right now, but we're about 40 days away from the end of the year. So another year is about to start again.
Right.
And so every year around December, I go through a life planning process. And so I revisit my legacy. I look at my core values. I start to look at my mission and my vision statement of my life and make sure that it's in direct alignment with my legacy. And then I break down my life in 2024 into 6 practical areas. And I make 3 declarations in each of those areas of my life. So I have 18 declarations broken into 6 segments of my life that should speak and run through the paradigm of my mission, vision, and core value set that is in direct alignment with my legacy. And so I'm very, very practical about what I go after, but it really does start with seeing your legacy and then making sure that the paradigm of your life, that everything flows through, is in direct alignment with that through the core value set, through the mission and vision of your life. And then as you start to grab hold of and make a stated claim with what you want the year to look like, not just in terms of success, not just in terms of achievement, but really going after fulfillment aspects of your life, are all of those things working in unison together to make sure it's speaking into the elements of my eulogy rather than just my resume? Really speaking towards the process, not just the outcome, really looking at the story of my life and the unwritten aspects of my life more than the finished product and the outcome of my life. And so all of that is always working day by day. And I visit that stuff like literally every single day. I'm pretty focused guy. I'm pretty disciplined guy. And so I visit that stuff every single morning and make sure I'm speaking into breathing life into those aspects of my life.
Love that, man. So I was smiling big time there as you got your 6. I've got my 6 here that I talk about all the time is your faith, your family, your fitness. I call it firm because that's what we have for work, right? So faith, family, fitness, firm, fun, and finances.
I love it. There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah. So walk me through, if you can. Let's kind of open that envelope a little bit, if we can, and share some stuff. When you talk about legacy, I can already tell that's really, really important to you. So when you say the word legacy, do you mind sharing that? Like, what is that legacy, and what do you think about?
Yeah. So my legacy, really does start with, how do you want to be? Not only how do you want to be remembered, but what lives on beyond me in the lives of those that I've caretaken for as well, and made an investment in. And so I break legacy into 4 segments, and really being very intentional on that. So looking at your spouse, your parents, your kids, and then your friends, community, colleagues. And I'm a spiritual person as well. And so kind of the canopy of all of it really does flow downward because of my faith. My faith, generates the way that I view life, and all the aspects of that should be tapping into the faith that I have. And so those are really the 4 segments. And so it really does start with my mission and vision statement of my life is to pick up the trash. Well, what do those 4 words mean? It means to leave people, places, and things better than the way that you found them. Well, how do you do that? Drew, what does that look like? That sounds pretty grandiose and that sounds great, but how do you strip it all away? And how does the next thing that you do really fulfill the legacy you hope to leave behind? Well, it comes down to 2 things. And I stay focused on this. Number 1, love the next one in front of me the best way I can, that our stories are better because they've collided together. And then number 2, do the next right thing right. If I just focus on those 2 things, love the next person in front of me, do the next right thing right, I believe that ultimately people will be better for it. Situations will be better for it. Circumstances, experiences, moments, environments will be better for it. And ultimately, the people that my story collide with hopefully will walk away better because of the investment that I made in them.
Yeah. So when I hear love the next person right, it makes me think about, with writing the book and being in business and coaching and being, again, the child, the spouse, the parent. How do you stay in the moment and enjoy the moment every day?
Posture of gratitude is where it starts. I mean, it really does for me. So once again, if you don't mind me sharing, I'm sure people think, is he just so robotic? Like he's so good, but I'm very disciplined when it comes to this because I believe this is, really where it starts. And so, the first thing I do every single day is I start in my gratitude journal. And as a byproduct of my gratitude journal, I send 10 notes, sometimes they're handwritten, sometimes they're emailed, sometimes they're just text or voice text. But I just literally 10 people that I begin to meditate and pray about. I share just how much I appreciate them. So it really does start with gratitude and appreciation. That's where it starts. And then everything flows out of that. And so as I seek to love the next one in front of me, and I try to do the next right thing right, because I'm so thankful for the gift of today. I'm so thankful for the opportunities that are before me. It allows me to be fully present. It allows me to stay grounded in the moment, to not allow my next to rob my now, to not allow what just happened to take away the joy of what's becoming, and to really stay at the intersection of what is happening next with what is happening now.
Yeah. So I love that. I think, and then one of the questions I was going to ask is your habits and rituals, and I would say that happens probably almost every day, doesn't it?
Every day. There's
Yeah.
not a day that does not. That's not how the day starts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Even on Christmas morning, it doesn't matter.
Even on Christmas morning.
Exactly.
even on Thanksgiving morning, even on those days. Because here's the way I think too. Like even on those days, so I'm not interested in being average. I'm not interested in being good. I'm not interested in just getting by or doing what everybody else does. And the human condition are on those days, we would take off from those elements of our life. And so the ones that I've been around that are great or excellent or elite at who they are as people and what they do, even on those days, even on vacation, even on the weekend, even when you don't want to, those are the days you have to, And so I that's just what I believe in. And so, yeah, even on the holidays, even on the weekend, even on the vacation, you still lean into what you what you have declared is important in your life.
Yeah. Well, and think about the message you have for your kids, right? I mean, what a great legacy to leave on to the next one, right? Now they're our age and they're in their mid 40s and they've got a family, and now they wake up and share gratitude and send messages to people because it just goes right. Because now, how do those 10 people feel when they get a message? Now they're going to go out and uplift people more often and stuff.
That's
and
right.
so this is all phenomenal. But what about the days that it's not going well, right? Not every day is just perfect. So how do you kind of, put your work boots on, lift yourself up and keep going?
Yeah, it's who you surround yourself with. That's where it's two things when it comes to this, because like you said, even on the days you don't have the juice, you still got to lean into the day. And so I believe it's two things. One is who you surrounded by, who are those people that breathe life into you in those days when you don't have what it takes, or when it's not going well, or it's a struggle, or it's a challenge or hardship. Life is lived in relationship, in community. And so I will become who I surround myself with. And so those are the days I've got to have great community that care deeply for me, that it's not conditional. Like even on those hard moments, on those hard days, those are when I need them the most. Not when things are going great and I'm living out of a highlight reel. That's easy, to hook your wagon. But number two is, so it's back to the gratitude piece of this, is what are those things that that you fight for every day that are beyond you or bigger than you? What are those causes that are far without of your reach? And how does that start to pull you up out of those moments of when you feel low? And so I believe it's a cause, and it's living life in a relationship with others. I think those two things are when I am not at my best, I try to reposition. I reach out to others that I know care deeply for me. I'm vulnerable enough, I'm authentic enough to be my truest self and ask for help when I need it. And then number two, what are those elements of causes that I'm fighting for well beyond me? And how does that play out so it can shift and pivot my mindset or my heart set in that moment?
Well, I think it's huge what you just shared there. The being vulnerable is, I think, especially as guys, man, I think it's when we're having tough times, it's hard to reach out, right? It's hard to be quote unquote weak is what some people would think. But I found it as well, is when I can share what's going on and then rally the troops, and having that good circle of people around you is critically important. My dad used to say when I was a kid, and it used to drive me nuts and piss me off because I didn't think he liked my kid or my friends, but he'd say the people you surround yourself with and the books you read, right? And he couldn't have been more right. So for me, bad times, I go to my journal. I go right here to my journal. I write down stuff, and I'm surrounded by great people, and I read good stuff, right? Garbage in, garbage out. And so if you put good stuff in your body, great things come out as well. So what other things besides the legacy and some of the things you talked about in the morning, your gratitude, what are some habits and rituals that if I followed you around every day that I would see are no miss items for you?
Yeah. I'm an avid reader. First of all, I love that you said that. So I'm always reading anywhere from 5 to 6 books at a time. I try to read over 50 books a year, which would be, an average of one a week. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm sending out at least 10 connects every single day. of gratitude, appreciation, and some of those people are repeats. Throughout the week, it may be the same person that resurfaces back up, but hey, you were prayed for today. I thought about you today. I'm thankful for you today. Thank you for making an investment in me today. Um, I think those two elements are very, very important. I think you're going to see somebody that is focused on making sure his physical wellness is good as well. So like this morning, we after 20 years, we play basketball full court 3 days a week. Still, group of guys at 5:30 a.m. We're still going to get up. We're going to exercise even on the off days. So our physical, well-being is very important. My diet's very important, especially as I'm getting close to 50. So I've changed my diet. Gotten very driven in terms of making sure I'm taking care of my body physically. My spiritual well-being. I'm my faith once again informs a lot of who I am. So I'm reading back through the Bible again every day. So I'm reading back through that. So every day I'm in the Word. I'm doing that as well. And then just trying to do other things from a mental, emotional wellness standpoint to make sure that my spirit's cleansed, that my heart is good, and just making sure that mentally, I'm ready for whatever the day presents. And so I would say those areas of mental, emotional, spiritual, relational, physical well-being are so important.
Yeah, love it, man. Basketball 3 times a week. I like it.
Yeah, it's a game that started at Vanderbilt with the coaching staff. They used to call it lunch bunch, and they would play at noon on Tuesday, Fridays. And then when I got done playing at Vanderbilt, I started to play in that game. And then when I left the world of healthcare to come to Christ Pres Academy to be a basketball coach, we moved that game to the morning on Monday, Wednesday,
awesome.
Friday. So it has just continued. It's like the secret fraternity in Nashville. So we have a lot of former Tennessee Titans, Nashville Predators, former Vanderbilt basketball players, football players.
Wow.
It's a great group of guys that, once again, a call
Competing.
connects us, but it shares this experience, and it's built this incredible community together.
Love that. Love it, man. So talk about your book, Elevated, a motivational book on being the best version of you. Let's talk about that for a minute. What was the reasoning behind writing it, and what would our listeners get out of reading that book?
Yes, we've written 2 books, by the way. So we wrote Elevated and Excavated. So Elevated was really, I've always wanted to write a book. So I'm a journaler. I write every day.
Yep.
And so just even if nobody read it, I wanted to go through the personal discipline of what it meant to have to try to put something like that together. What does that really look like to work on my own growth and development? A guy named Virgil Herring, who's become a dear, dear friend. He's probably one of the leading golf performance coaches in the world, coached many PGA Tour professionals. He and I got together because of a podcast I did with him. And we started to understand that we had a lot of like-minded thoughts around excellence and leadership and what makes great people great. And so we got in a room and whiteboarded out what makes great people great. We just started listing attributes of what makes great people, great teams, great CEOs, coaches, performers, great at what they do. We came up with I think 150 to 160 words that we thought, just as we brainstormed, we cut that down to 50 that we could agree to. And so what we did was for 50 straight days, Brett, we journaled about that one word. So the first word in the book's perseverance. So you would write about perseverance, or Virgil would write about perseverance, and I would write about perseverance, and we would share that journal entry together. And then day 2, whatever the word was, resilience, day 3. And we just literally for 50 straight days did that practice. And we would share the journal entry with one another. And so what we wanted it to become was our book became your book. And so back to it, we're both journalers and writers. So we would, if you open up the book, perseverance, Drew's entry, Virgil's entry, and the empty page. So the reader could therefore write whatever their journal entry would be about that word. And so that is how our book transfers to ownership to becoming your book. And so that was the idea. It went on to have great success. Who would have thought? Became number 1 on Amazon in coaching and leadership. And we had great success with that book. So we followed it up during COVID with Excavated. And we wrote about 50 words that would have almost like a negative connotation because of what we were going through as a world. But sometimes it may be setting you up for the biggest blessing of your life. So how do you dig deeper to go even further beyond what you would hope for? So then we had 100 words between those books, and we signed, we did a podcast. We did 100 episodes in partnership with Cumulus Media. And we did a podcast around each of those words, and we did 100 episodes. So there's a lot of content out there for anybody that would love
That's
to
great.
really listen about leadership, performance, greatness, excellence, those kind of things.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. There's no doubt about that.
I love
That's
it.
awesome.
Thank you.
We'll do that. And then talk about the risks. What risk are you happy that you've taken throughout your life?
So I've taken two big risks as it relates to my career. So I would start there. Number one, I was involved in the world of healthcare. I was in healthcare technology with a company that was hugely successful. When I left Vanderbilt, I moved quickly up to be president of a region at age 26, and had the world by the tail, by the way you would define success.
Yeah.
But as much as I was winning in the world of my professional sense, I was losing personally at home. I would leave every single Sunday or Monday and go out of town and come back Friday. And I just was not interested in that being the rhythm of life for our family. So I took a risk, and a school took a risk on me because I had no coaching experience. But I left the world of technology, healthcare, and moved into basketball coaching at Christ Pres Academy. We went on to have a lot of fun, had more success than we deserved, was there for 15 years. Once again, had the world by the tail in terms of the way that you would define success, and retired from coaching to step back into the corporate world and joined the Dufresne Spencer Group. My friend Chad Spencer, our CEO, founder of our organization, as executive vice president of people and leadership development. And that was a major risk as well, to leave everything that I knew. And people thought I was absolutely crazy. What do you mean you're going to leave basketball coaching to go in and do this other thing? And so those two risks have each taken me to a different level in my journey, and I'm so thankful for it. And then I think the bigger risk of all risk was adoption was a foreign concept to our family. We didn't really know much about adoption. We didn't know many families that had adopted. But we fell in love with just the people of Uganda, that part of the world. We were involved in several missions, and we knew we couldn't affect the orphan and crisis across the world, but we could affect the lives of at least one or two, and it ended up being two in our life. And that risk has had exponential return in our life for what we did by saying yes to that.
Well, that's two lucky 16-year-old boys right there to come into that house, man. That's
very
awesome.
blessed.
So very cool. And so talk about that from the leadership development. I think you said is what you're doing for the company that you're involved with now. What are you seeing that the everyday person, right, driving down the road, what are we seeing that you think people really need to focus on and need help with the most right now?
Yeah, well, specifically in our world, the world of retail, we're in the home furnishings world. And, obviously, if you look at a macro level economically around the country right now, you're in this space. I mean, you understand, you study it, because of the way the world is at this moment. Home buys have slowed, so therefore home furnishings has slowed. And so the thing that we're trying to get our people in a down economic environment, retail wise for us, is really how do you elevate your mindset and not allow the external circumstances of the world really dictate who you are and the life that you're meant to live, because so many times those external circumstances really do affect who we are as husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and all those things. And so really that's the challenge that I have the most right now, Brett, is trying to encourage our people to not be taken out of the fight because of the external circumstances that they're living in right now, and the effect professionally what they're living and how that affects their personal lives and their marriage and the way that they parent their communities. And so just really trying to separate the two, that what you do is not who you are, And I think sometimes we hook our wagons into that monetary success or performance or titles or all of those
For
things
sure.
really dictate who you are. And in a down economic environment, it's just what the world is. How do you still seek to find fulfillment and joy in all the other aspects of your life? And how do you stay intrinsically motivated to continue to pursue all that you were created to be?
Yeah. And going back to where we were at to start, really, is, and I'm the exact same way you are. I mean, I'm in my journal here and I write down my goals every single day, what my goals are for the next 90 days, that then go into
Yep.
my year, which go into my 3, 5, and 10-year goals, right? And so, don't you think the importance of that, of doing this daily? I mean, every single day without fail, because you talked about a robot earlier. I feel that way sometimes too. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop my bag off. I grab the book I'm reading. I grab my journal. I go grab
Yep.
my water. I mean, I do the exact same thing every single morning when I walk into the office. So how important is that for somebody listening to this right now that may not have that discipline that we have to do something, the same old stuff day in and
Yep.
day out?
Well, I believe, routine is so critical
Yeah.
because routine and habits will set the table for you to experience fulfillment and success. And I just believe if you're not like I'm probably I'm OCD. So by nature, like I want everything to be orderly. I want everything to be just right. But that allows me to be at my optimum level and that
Yeah.
allows me to maximize all that I can be. And if anything's out of sorts or I'm not stepping into those habits or those routines, I feel out of sorts. And then I'm not bringing my true self to the table. And so, what I would say to anybody, to your point, Brett, is start somewhere. Even if you're not that kind of person, you can still start with one. And
Yep.
we learned in Atomic Habits from James Clear, like start with one, then stack number two on top of it,
Yeah.
and then the stack number three, and then the compounding effect of all of those things together, you'll start to see the massive effect that can have to the 1%, 2% incremental improvement that you desire. But it really does start with the next right decision, the next habit, the next word, the next thought, the next mindset. And how do you start to add that and start to understand the effect that all of that has? That there are no big things or small things, they're just things. And you have a
Yep.
way that you do it and the way that you approach it.
Yep. Trust the process, man.
Amen.
Last few questions here. This is one of my favorite questions I've asked on pretty much almost every episode for 380 something people I've had the
Wow.
pleasure of interviewing, which has been phenomenal. But fears. How many of the fears that you've put in your mind have ever blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Yeah, I would say not many.
Yeah.
It's a majority of what we're fearful of never comes to be a reality, and
Yeah.
so you're actually only born with two fears when you come into the world, so that
Mhm.
means, as we've learned from Mark Batterson, one of my favorite writers,
It's
all your
phenomenal.
all your fears are learned. And his thought is, and what he's taught me through his readings and listening to his sermons is, if your fears can be learned, then therefore your fears can be unlearned. And so how do you start to unlearn some of those fears that have had a gripping effect in your life? Because what you start to see as you look back over the course of your life, the things you were most fearful of, like you said, Brett, didn't come true.
Yeah.
And so just really starting to understand that. So yeah, to answer the question, uh, I can't think of many, if
Yep.
one, of something that I built up as a monumental fear in my life that reached the level of anxiety or even panic actually happened in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I asked the question. I mean, right? We all have those same thoughts, those same feelings that go into our mind. I heard somebody say the other day too, is from getting things done and taking action. It was great. It said, make decisions based on your knowledge, not on your emotion.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
So just take the gym, for example, right? You talk about physical fitness. And that's really helped me is sometimes my emotion is, I don't want to go do that. I don't want to do this at all. So if I'm making the decision on emotions, I'm not going to go. Right. But
right.
if I base it on my knowledge, I know I need to go because of A, B, C, and D. It's
Yeah,
an easier decision to go make. So when you hear me say that, make a decision based on your knowledge, not on your emotion. What comes to mind for you?
yeah. Well, I start to think about when I think about that, I think about if we tie it to fear, So if you analyze the past overcoming a fear, if you did have to overcome a fear, or did it come to be a reality or not. So analyze past fears, anchor a thought beyond the fear, to your point, the knowledge of what you hope for. So anchor a thought beyond it. And then you got to act, you got to move, you got to go. So as you analyze and as you anchor a thought beyond, you got to act and you got to go and you got to move.
So let's talk about cell phones here. Anything on your phone, if I stole your cell phone from you, besides, your normal email and calendar stuff to help run your life, is there an app or anything that you use for productivity or just, something that you love to use, or are you pretty much not too much technology in your life?
No, I mean, I just use the calendar. So I literally invite myself to different calendar invites. So even
Okay.
scheduling sleeping. I mean, I even like down to that. Like, I want to make sure I own my calendar. My calendar doesn't own me. There's no reaction to what the day presents. Like, I have taken control of that, and so I use my calendar app as inviting myself to make sure I'm fully, to your point, present in what I want to make sure that my day looks like.
Love it. Love it. Where do our listeners find more of Drew Maddux?
So across all social media, so Twitter at Drew Maddux, Facebook, Instagram, Drew Maddux 45, LinkedIn, anywhere you can find any of that stuff. I post daily content. You can go to Amazon and you can look up Elevated and Excavated. You can go to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify to grab our podcast. And also, something that people have become fun to kind of follow is, we've done a lot of trick shots, Brett, over the years because of our basketball camp. So we have 8 world records. We've been featured on ESPN, Ellen Show, Good Morning America, all over the world. Those videos have several 100 million views, and so people may enjoy getting to see those as well.
Where do we find those?
On YouTube or just.
And is it under your name, or where's it at?
Yeah, just any news source. Yeah, you can just Google Drew Maddux and you can see a lot of those trick shots.
Well, you'll probably get some 4 new subscribers, being my 4 boys. That it's like people want to watch YouTube more than they want to watch TV. These kids, don't they?
Isn't that the truth? So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
we the trick shots have become, like, of all the things, that's probably what people want to talk about the most.
That's funny. That's really funny. So one last question I was going to ask: best college basketball moment that you can remember that you played in. What was one of those best moments that you'll never forget?
When very first time our name was announced for the NCAA tournament, just when your name got popped up that you had made March Madness, I think that was special. First time I ever ran on Memorial Gym's floor as a player, fulfilling that dream. And then the third piece was beating number 1 ranked UCLA, was probably our best win we ever had in my career.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Drew, thanks so much for being with me, man. It's been awesome having you on the Circuit of Success, sharing your stories and your passion and your legacy. And we really appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate it, Brett. Thanks so much. I look forward to following the success of the show.
Thanks so much.